As we kick off the Entrepreneur 101 workshop series for 2022, it is a privilege to have our next speaker join us in the Entrepreneur Spotlight. Pallabi Saboo is the CEO of Harmonia Holdings Group, LLC. She has an extensive track record of building and operating successful technology-related companies. She is a serial entrepreneur who is committed to giving back through community service. She has built a successful technology company headquartered right here in Fairfax County. In addition, she serves on many boards and is the recipient of numerous recognitions and awards that highlight her leadership, business performance, and volunteerism. Joining me today in the Entrepreneur Spotlight is Pallabi Saboo, CEO of Harmonia Holdings Group, LLC, and a recent appointment to the FCEDA Commission. Good morning, Pallabi. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Karen. Thank you for having me. I am truly humbled and honored to be here.
So, you have a long list of accomplishments and numerous recognitions and awards, as I mentioned in your bio. Smart 100 CEO, Asian Business Leader of the Year, Women Who Mean Business, Technical Trailblazer Contractor, just to name a few. Please give our audience a brief overview of what your company does.
So my company is called Harmonia Holdings Group, and we are an information technology service provider, largely to the federal government. And our areas of expertise lie in cutting edge technologies like blockchain, cyber, cloud migration, data mining, and so on and so forth.
Thank you. And can you tell us a little bit about your professional background?
I have what used to be a predecessor to computer science. I have a bachelor's in electronics and electrical engineering. So that gives away my age because computer science came maybe a few years after that. And then I have an MBA from Virginia Tech, and currently I'm pursuing an advanced management program at Harvard Business School.
So a perpetual learner, very good. It's an impressive background, the electrical engineering degree, at a time when you did not see a lot of women obtaining those technical degrees. And coupled with the success that you've had in your business, it is just impressive. And so how and why did you decide to establish your company?
So the journey was so interesting. You're right, at the time that I did engineering, and it hasn't changed too much now, but I was the only class in a class of 59, only girl in a class of 59 boys. And it was wonderful because, nobody would call you dumb, right? You could say the dumbest thing in the class, but the professor wouldn't call you out because you were the only girl and they wanted to nurture you. And then when I started my business, it was actually by accident. I took 8 years to have my one and only child. And then when God gave me that blessing, I wanted to spend time with her. And I spent 4 years before she started going to preschool. But when I came back into the workforce, I was branded a stay-at-home mom. You carry that title, especially at that time. I'm talking about 23 years back. And the degree I had before I became a stay-at-home mom was an MBA from Virginia Tech with a specialization in marketing. And I was in Blacksburg, and there were only two kinds of jobs. You either worked at the hospital or you worked at the university. And the university did offer me a few jobs, but all of them involved traveling. And I didn't want to travel. I didn't want to be in that BD role who was, a person traveling. So after a year of not being able to figure out what to do, somebody connected me to my business partner, who was a professor of computer science, and said, you both are not going anywhere. My partner did not have too much of business sense, but he was very, very smart technically. And I had a engineering background, but I'm mostly a relationships person and a business development kind of person. So we met over lunch and we figured, we could experiment. This was in April of 2006, and we have never looked back since then. One, because, as we started making the rounds in DC, there were very few women at that time, even in the federal contracting space, doing IT services, information technology services. So we'd sit in meetings and people would remember my name because one, I was a woman, one, I was brown, I was Indian, I was short, I just looked different from all the other males in the room. And that really worked in my favor in terms of, getting a lot of winning work is working with people, even when we hire a gardener, we like to know the person, right? For small things at home. So I think that retention and being on the radar of people and people remembering you is a large part in getting awards, right? All else being equal, they'll go with people they know. So that really helped in starting the business. So that's how my journey really started.
It's an interesting story, and I love that you have utilized what some may have thought was a barrier to success. You leverage that and use that as a strength. And you talked about relationships, that you were a relationship person and a business development person. Two key qualities that are required to develop and grow a successful business. So, let's transition to funding, the idea of funding. As you are aware, access to capital is an impediment to starting and or growing a business, especially for minority and women-owned businesses. How do you fundraise?
So we were very lucky in Harmonia. I didn't come from money. I was fresh off the boat, literally, right? I had come in as a student and then had a child, and then I started Harmonia. And my business partner didn't have money. But we went the route of SBIRs, which is the Small Business Innovative Research Grants. It's a beautiful program that the government runs. They give you 100,000. At that time, initially, it was 75,000 for a phase one. If you win a phase one, then phase two is between 750 to 1.5 million. And Harmonia till date, 16 years of existence, has done about 101 SBIRs. So we never had to borrow any money. We never had a VC in the mix. We still own, between me and my partner, 100% of the company. We had a line of credit, which we maybe used a little in the first year, but ever since then, I don't ever remember using my line of credit. I would encourage all small businesses to look at that. It's a wonderful program. It's not only IT specific. I'm sure it's software, hardware, and many other things, but it's a program to check out for startups or people wanting to start businesses.
Wow, 101 SBIR contracts. Amazing. So essentially, you got the government to invest in your business. Impressive. And for those that are listening out there, that's something that you certainly should pursue, the SBIR contracts. One of our partner organizations is certainly well versed in offering training and can help walk you through that process. But again, unique about funding your business. Again, there are a lot of resources out there for entrepreneurs, and we want to be mindful that certainly SBR is one way in which to fund your business, and not to be discouraged when you can't get a traditional loan or a grant for moving your business forward. What do you say? A key quality of many entrepreneurs is their innovation or ability to offer something interesting and new. The ingenuity can help rise above the competition and find success in their own unique way. What would you say is unique about Harmonia Holdings Group?
So I think, as I've reflected a lot about this, especially in the last 2 years of COVID, right from the beginning, the family culture was there. When we started Harmonia, we were 2.5 employees. So it was me, my business partner, and a half-time student. And the first holiday party we had was, okay, call your grandmother, call your neighbor, because we at least need to have a table full of 10 people, right? And then we incremented our staff one by one. And being inclusive of the entire family became part of Harmonia's culture. And I think when you go home and your family also encourages you or talks positively about your business, then even if you can't compete on salary, because if you just compete on salary, it's a losing battle. But if your whole family is integrated into the Harmonia family, you won't leave the company for a few dollars here or there. Your loyalty, your motivation level will be way higher than a company that's only about key performance indexes. So I think, and especially during COVID times, we've seen it, people have stepped forward and helped others. Even before COVID, there was, the very first time there was an employee, he got cancer, and his wife also worked with us. So that employee could go on short-term and long-term disability, but the wife had to stay home too. And there was no program for the supporting wife, right? But Harmonia employees, without even me having to suggest it, came and donated their PTO so that she could take a whole year off. that's a reflection of the culture. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes. And even now when I'm talking about it, it gives me goosebumps. But that culture is art. It's not the work we do. It's all about the team, I think.
And that is why you were so successful, one of the reasons. So why did you decide to locate your business in Fairfax County?
So when we started in Blacksburg, and when I found that I was traveling again, because all the work was here in DC, we were doing, the grants came from the federal government, and I was up here almost every week meeting people. In September, I was like, I need to move myself up to Northern Virginia. And I did an examination of all the school districts, because at that time, my daughter would be getting into second grade. And Fairfax County, McLean High School, Longfellow or middle school, it had the best schools there. I didn't have money for a private schooling system. And all my research said these schools are as good as any private school in the country. So that was one reason. The other reason was I'm neighbors with my brother who had been in Fairfax County for exactly the same reasons. He'd come maybe 5 years before I did. And then the whole environment was very, very supportive to businesses. I had met with, I think Frank Warner was his name. He was the senator then, if I remember the name correctly. And I had met him in my trips up, and I had met the NBTC president, Bobby Kilburg, in my trips up from Blacksburg. And everything they said was like, Fairfax County is a good place to come. It's very supportive. It's central, and it'll be easy to work here.
Two key names, Congressman Frank Wolf and Bobby Kilburg from NDTC, who were huge proponents of technology here in Fairfax County and the region. It's great that you are here. We have benefited greatly from your company. You are a great, I think, model for businesses that aspire to start and grow here. I have just a few questions more in this interview. So why is Tysons and Fairfax County a great location for your business?
I think it's so central to DC. When the realtors sell property in McLean or Tysons, they'll say one traffic light away from DC. Now, technically, it's true because there's one traffic light. It takes a long time to get there, depending on traffic. But it's very central. I need to, in my line of work, team with other businesses. All other businesses are located here. There's some in Reston and Herndon for sure, but the bulk of my teaming partners are located in the Tysons McLean area. And then you have Fairfax FCEDA, which is very supportive. They've always reached out from the day I came in and offered me services, especially, help with finding employees. You have the employee workshops or the employee fairs. You've offered loans, which I luckily have not needed, but it's good to know that that offer is there. You've offered procurement help. It's good to know it's there if we need it. We mentored 3 companies as part of the Harmonia ecosystem of companies, and they have used FCEDA services greatly. So there's a lot of support structure built in.
Thank you for mentioning our services and for taking advantage of them. I'm glad that you've benefited from them. For those viewers who are out there listening to this interview, many are probably wondering if they have what it takes to start a business and to be successful. What are the qualities of a good entrepreneur, and what makes a good entrepreneur successful?
I think, entrepreneurship or success is a journey of habits. A lot of people will say, look, I'm not smart enough, or I don't have connections. I really believe, as I've watched my own journey and I watch others, if you take your steps diligently, nothing is difficult. If your goal is, I heard Nick say, the federal government is a hard place to start because they need past performances. And certainly we had past performances via a SIBRs. But somebody who's starting off and does the state government work, it's not rocket science. The procurements are out there. If you plan a year in advance and you follow a procurement, take all the steps needed to build your team and put a thoughtful proposal down. It's all about diligence and work habit. There is no rocket science to being an entrepreneur. It's discipline.
Pallabi, what advice would you give to someone trying to start a business?
So, Nick also mentioned the 8A program, or somebody asked a question. I keep telling my daughter, who has got no interest in starting a business, right? But if somebody listened to me, the 8A program is a great program to leverage if you can get it, because it puts you in a protected category where when you bid on work, right? If you, especially, I can only talk about government contracting work, right? When you bid on work, you don't want 20 other people bidding on that same work because competition makes it harder to win. When you are in an 8A category, there's literally very limited competition and somebody's out there listening to you. So certainly examine that. Certainly examine, I heard one of the questions was, after 4 years, I don't have any revenue. I think really look at your model. If people are not willing to invest in it, whether it's at the friends and family or the seed or the series A as it gets more serious, re-examine your market offering, because you definitely have to target something that there's a need for.
Okay. And then do you have any additional advice to share with our viewers about just starting a business?
So the one thing I learned as Harmonia, in the journey to win 101 SBIRs, a lot of program managers on the government side, when we won the phase one, when you win phase one, you can't meet anybody, right? Phase one is purely on merit. But phase one to phase two, where the real money is on relationships. And a lot of them would tell me the other businesses, because about 3 or 4 businesses would win phase one and only one would go to phase two. So I'd often hear no other business calls in and checks in and gets feedback as often as you do. So I think building that relationship, making the client feel important, making the client feel that you're listening to what they need rather than pitching what you want to sell, certainly was our secret sauce. And that's the advice I would offer to everybody.
Okay. And our last question, what interested you about being appointed to the FCEDA Commission?
That was a real honor. Somebody in the commission, Juhi Naithani, is a dear friend of mine, and she had suggested it because she had heard me say, when I moved to Fairfax County, I had a business to run and a small child. So there was no time for me to give back. And I come from India, where if you're born middle class, you stay middle class, you don't move your social status. But this county and this state and this country has given me so much that I had that regret that I'd never given back to PTA or anything while my daughter was growing up. Now that I'm an empty nester, I wanted to give back. I wanted to see where I could really, share my lessons learned, help others in whatever little capacity I can. And when Juhi suggested this, it was like, okay, this is a great place to be, a great place to have my voice heard, reach out and help others. So that was the motivation.
So Pallabi, thank you so much for being here today. It was great to have you here. Thank you for sharing your experiences and lessons learned along your entrepreneurial journey. Thank you for joining us.